Yeah, and oh, hello. Oh, there it is. It took a second. Hi everyone, it's nice to meet you. I've seen many of you in the background and it's been nice to introduce myself to you all. I'm Holly Dunn. I'm the Assistant Director of Governmental Affairs and I've been with the department almost 8 years.
Okay. We're going to introduce some developers and then we're going to do some basics about advising. And then we're going to let them share their wisdom with you and allow you the opportunity to ask this questions.
Hi, my name is Sarah Seashog. I am the environmental programs advisor for AS.
How long?
How long? I've been here on campus like 13 years now. So
Hello everyone, my name is Fernando Cuevas, my program is Keenan Ed, and I'm the coordinator and the advisor for the Health Center and UCLA.
I'm Leah Bartos. I'm the journalism advisor for Associated Students. I've been here for 9 years.
and I'm Kate Lopez, Sheeper. I am the associate director of student events, programming and services, helping with program board. I've been with AS for about a month, but I've been on campus for about 9 years now.
We also have advisors and staff in the room. Raise your hand if you are an advisor to staff. Here. So they also are great resources. Say hi, introduce yourself. All right, let's get started.
Start off. Okay, so for those of you that aren't familiar, we have listed here on our slide the 3 different units that our staff group is broken into. So if you remember, I introduced myself under governmental affairs. So my position falls under student leadership and development, which our lovely Marissa is the director of. So we have a photo here of our staff org chart for you to reference and get to know we're kind of broken into different unit sections. So you can see myself there in the corner. We have some of our team members here, like Leah falls under student leadership and development, Sarah Fernando. And then Kate is under our second unit, which is under student programs and services. And so we have our student media also. You can see Jennifer Kaiser is under there. We have representation from our bike shop. Phil oversees all of our business services. And this is really important to kind of know really how our staff structure is, so that you know who the right person is to talk to about what it is you need. And then our third unit here on the right is our technology and internal operations. So they do a lot of our work behind the scenes. You may not see them as much doing presentations or meeting with them, but if you ever need tech help, our financing processes, requisition, key card access, we have HR. Our department actually is the second largest student staff employer on campus. So we have a ton of student staff. Lily and Chris, our HR assistant director and payroll coordinator, do a ton of amazing work for our student staff. So the reason why we've kind of broken it down into these different functional areas is so that we can have team meetings that are relevant and helpful. So all of our advisors can meet together, all of the staff that work on tech related things meet together, that kind of thing. So as I mentioned, these are 3 different ones here if you would like to see the different titles of them. And the reason for this is we have a lot of students that are doing different events and programming and grant proposal writing and all sorts of things. And so we have it kind of broken up into these different areas for like appropriate team building. Okay. You want to take this one or you want me to?
Oh, you can start and then I'll do them.
Okay, so we also want to talk a little bit about, so we kind of consider most of our staff to be advisor or advisor adjacent. Because we all work with students, we're all in the division of student affairs, so our department is under a larger umbrella. But there are specific staff that do work more individually with student groups, right? So whereas you might have gone to somebody from the tech team, they don't advise a student group that does programming, events, services, meetings, anything like that. So this slide, while it does apply to those also, you are probably going to work more with advisors that are like attending your meetings, they're helping with minutes, they're helping, with events and contracts and all of those things. So on our first bullet point here, we have exempt versus non-exempt. So we are all employees of the University of California here at Santa Barbara. And so we have job descriptions, we have like labor agreements, some of us are part of unions. And so exempt versus non-exempt is kind of the HR language that talks about, do we work hourly or do we work salary? And the reason for that is how it will impact the availability of the advisor that you're working with. So most of our non-manager advisors are going to be paid hourly. This means they're going to have probably an 8 to 5 schedule. They can flex their time to be able to attend student meetings later. But they are going to have more of a regular business working schedule. And then staff like Marissa and I are exempt. We oversee different areas and the flexibility is kind of built into it. So it's an expectation. Yeah, we don't get overtime. So it's an expectation for our role that we will probably spend weekends working, after hours working. And so those of us that are exempt, we're paid for the additional responsibility of being additionally available. And so for staff like Marissa and I, our availability is going to be different than an advisor that is a non-exempt advisor and they work hourly. So that also goes into our next point in terms of expectations and boundaries about work schedules and hours. So depending on the position, depending on the supervisor in the area, that will determine what that staff member's work schedule is. Generally, those are based around the need and the demand of that particular area. So I, for example, advise the Senate. And so it's an expectation that I'm at Senate meetings every Wednesday. And so my work schedule has that built into it, right? So the team that I supervise also will ask their groups, when they're meeting, we try and advise students to have those during regular business meetings so that you can have the most access to that advisor. And so the work schedule will be kind of built around those variable factors. We do try and encourage students to please have your meetings during those work hours so that there's not too much variability in terms of that. And that also sort of goes into hours of availability. We're also like normal people and go to doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and all the things. And so that will, of course, impact availability. I personally am not a machine who operates 24 hours a day doing work for associated students. So most of our staff are encouraged to have and do have actually in their signature, or you can ask them what their hours of availability are. So I will hold office hours. I'm going to look at my schedule for the upcoming quarter so you can see things like that. When is the best time to meet with them to drop in? We have some staff that work hybrid work schedules. So sometimes they work remotely some days. So if you want to schedule a Zoom meeting with them or an in-person meeting, finding out all of that will be super helpful. Because particularly for our non-exempt staff, they are not going to be answering their phone or their email or their Slack messages, which are our approved methods of communication. They will not be answering those after hours. So you likely will not get a response. So being able to clarify that or having a next in line person of contact for them if there is something that is urgent or an emergency, which we hope there are not, but having kind of that information at hand will be helpful for that.
Okay, so I'm going to touch on the feedback. So one of the things that is important to advisors is that we know how well we're doing. And feedback you heard about this morning about communication styles, feedback, that's also relevant to working with staff and with your advisors. I like to say that as an advisor, I learn as much from you all as I hope to impart to you. So it's a mutual relationship. And so how you provide feedback and build trust is immensely important to us. And we know there's been some chasms between staff and our students in the past. And so it's important to us that we figure out how to build trust with each of you. We first need to acknowledge, when we go back to that org chart, that we have a lot of vacancies. So not everybody has an assigned advisor yet. That's something we're currently in the process of doing. So some of you are going to fill some inequities around advising at the moment while we figure out how to best serve everybody. That means you're probably going to have feedback about the fact that you can't get a hold of somebody when you want to. We're still in the process. But when you have an opportunity to give constructive feedback, first of all, I would say,
If you have the opportunity, try to do that with the staff advisor first, one-on-one. I wouldn't pounce on them in a group setting, because that's really rough. We won't do that to you, so we ask that you not do that to us. It can feel harsh when you have like 20 students in a room telling you all of these bad. I've been there.
Yeah.
And asking permission to give feedback is really important. So it's a consent opportunity. We all practice consent in other areas. Doing feedback is also an opportunity for learning how to practice consent. Can I give you feedback? If so, how do you like to receive feedback? Is it in writing? Do you prefer to do it one-on-one? Would you like to do that? Do you want to do it immediately, or do you want to schedule the design? If I feel like somebody's gonna give me some constructive feedback, I'll probably schedule time, because I might ask, what is it about? So I can construct my thoughts and prepare, and then I'm in a better space to hear that feedback. The feedback I also suggest be behavior-based, not the judgments, and that's really hard. And I can do a feedback workshop with all of you some other time, but behavioral-based feedback means, hey, telling somebody when they come 10 minutes late to a meeting, you know, it was really rude of you and disrespectful to come to our meeting late. That's a judgment call. That's how different cultures have different meanings around time. I come from a culture in a Latino family, Latinx family, where we don't see time, other people time. I like to come and make an entrance, but I know a lot of these folks are like, I heard you, I heard that. And yes, they're like, giddy, she's, but there are folks who like me to mind. But when you give somebody that feedback, instead of saying, hey, it's really rude when you did this, what you want to share is the behavior, how it impacted you, and what you'd like to see in the future. And that's how you provide feedback in constructive. When you arrive late today, it caused us to start late. And we have folks who have to leave on time, so now our meetings cut short and we can provide on my schedule, right? And in the future, if you're gonna run late, can you please let us know or try to get it on? That's how you get it. The other piece to that is feedback isn't always constructive. If you have advisors and staff that are doing a good job, please recognize them. For those of you who were in my workshop yesterday, what was the good practice? This is a test, y'all. You're starting spicy this week. Come on. What was the good practice? In the leadership challenge. Me, I know we've been inundated with information, but I know one of you will remember or look back at your notes. Starts with an E, 3 words. Yes? What was that? Encourage the heart. What would that look like with your staff? How many of you have practiced encouraging the heart with staff or your advisors? Raise your hand if you've done that. Oh, that's the one. Okay, so maybe we need to practice that a little bit more. How many of you have given constructive feedback to staff? So if that balance is a little heavier on the constructive and not also on the recognition and encouraging the heart side, I encourage you to remember to do that. Not just with your leadership boards, but with staff. We're humans too, and we go home and feel all the feels when we work with you. So just keep that in mind. And that goes into the professional engagement and conduct, which you can touch on a little bit.
Yeah, I was also gonna say, if you've been in any of my trainings, I also say I accept any and all compliments. So similar kind of vibe is that I personally am a person that also does well with understanding what is working, not just what isn't working. Everybody is different, but that's why I joke that I accept any and all compliments, is because it helps me personally in my feedback style to understand, okay, this is working, we can continue the path there. Instead of just everything that is not working, which I understand. We all are very process improvement kind of culture in associate students, and really the work is born out of improving campus culture, improving a sense of belonging, community, totally get that. And also taking a moment to recognize where things are going well, I think for us also works well, or at least for me. I'll use I statements. We're a fan of I statements also in the feedback process. Okay, so in terms of professional engagement and conduct, please engage with our advisors in a professional and respectful manner. Please.
And that might be determined by the advisor. What's
Yeah.
comfortable for one advisor may be different from another. It's not one size fits all. Again, professional and respectful can mean different things to different staff.
Absolutely. And I mean, it can be a cultural thing as well too. So I personally am a fan of having a conversation about what professional and respectful looks like. Just had a conversation with another staff about the way that he wanted to be addressed, and that's totally fine. It means different things to different people. I mean, obviously, besides the like blatant and egregious conduct, like there's not a question about like screaming at somebody. That's just not allowed. But beyond egregious behavior, being able to, which I'll bump to kind of the last point here is really, we're here to build a relationship with you all, and communication, I feel like it's fair to say for all of us is really important for you all. Also, we are going to continue to be on campus. We were here before you got here. We'll be here after. And I like to tell students that I want to use the networks and relationships that I've built to help you to make those introductions, to have conversations about, projects that have been tried before. Like, we hold a lot of the historical knowledge of the association. And so being able to build relationships with you is really important, because you all are going to continue to be change makers and to do things on campus. And having that professional relationship with us, or at least with me in particular, is really important. Because I think that's kind of a lot of what the skill building and the association really revolves around, is how to build relationships and work through your projects, which are always gonna be. But I'm a people person. If you attended Marissa's leadership workshop, some of my strengths really involve working with people and seeking input and all of that. Also, one last point on this slide, if you have any concerns or questions or issues, compliments, complaints about the specific advisor, or just any person on staff. So if we look back to our staff org chart here, everybody, including Sean, has a supervisor. So if you want to, like, if I say something that hurts your feelings and you don't want to tell me, you can tell Marissa. Hopefully, in my particular case and many others, we hope to build a relationship with you where giving that feedback directly feels, if not safe, comfortable, accessible, all those things, but totally get it if it's not. And it's the same thing for other advisors as well. So if somebody else says something and you want to give that feedback not to them directly, going to their supervisor is recommended if you don't feel comfortable talking to the person individually. Or if it's Marissa hurts your feelings, then you can talk to Sean. Not to put you on the spot, but so if you don't feel comfortable giving that feedback directly to those folks, you can, but that can be a part of the feedback process too. It's just really, if that relationship feels really challenging and unable to be resolved amongst the two of you, going through kind of some of the hierarchy would really help. And that's also why we recommend building relationships with different staff, so you kind of have an understanding of where we kind of are in the system. And then also, I think that we're all kind of cool. So, being able to chat with all of us, I think, is also really important.
Question, we have some more information to go over, but we're gonna break it up into some of your questions. With what are your expectations, or just asking you and hear from you, what do you expect from your advisors? What do you hope to get out of your advising experience?
So far, we had two advisors, but, mine's retired and she was amazing. But really what we expect is just to be able to ask questions, and that either if they don't have the answers, they can find someone or have the correct contact so that we can get answers, and basically just help us with our process, then kind of be like, oh, I don't know. I don't either. So just, giving us the correct contact so that problems can be solved quickly, and then also having a sense of urgency in the same way that we do, like not kind of being like, oh, I'll get to it at some point, but being like proactive about it with us, so that it doesn't seem like we're bothering them in a way. But so far we've had really good experiences with our advisors. So that's kind of what we expect, and that's kind of what we've gotten so far. Everybody's gonna take you.
And a quick way of reminder that we should talk about timing and an expectation on how quickly should an advisor respond. And I have to be honest with you, because of the vacancies, some of us have a lot more on our plate than we should. And some of us, I know a lot of you, Holly and I and the IVP, many emails about honor, it's probably the number one email we get. We hate it too, just as much as you do, which is why we're working to send it to myself as best we can.
And we hate the process, not you. Just
so
to be
we
clear.
process.
We want you all to get paid and we hate the delay. Yeah.
Like that, we're working on, know that it has been but we'll talk about, I mean, I'll ask all of you to answer that question as well. Are there other, did anyone want to respond to that? Okay.
I think one thing that our advisors do Vincent John, which I grew up, and I think one thing that he always did was if you didn't have the answer, there was still that assurance that we would find the answer. Or if there was a problem, there was always assurance that it would be figured out. I think that as students, that have a big role in sometimes big budgets and big plans, we can tend to like step ahead of ourselves. We're like, oh, we wanna do this big workshop, and that's gonna cost thousands of dollars, and do this. And I think this was great at assuring that it was a great idea and connecting with some other people and providing just that like. Everything's gonna be okay, we're gonna work it out, but there's a process to this, let's say just be followed, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. And we love this as well. And I think it's really important that you understand, we work in an environment where we have to adhere not just to university policy, state policy, federal policy, and as a public institution, there's a lot we have to know. We get trained annually on everything from sexual assault, reported, mandated reporting, everything. So know that there's a lot we have to know, and yet there's still a lot we don't know. Even after 15 years of working, there was stuff I didn't know. But being able to say I don't know, but we'll figure it out together is just as important. So sometimes we're gonna learn alongside with it to keep that in. Any others? Expectations or good examples you've had from your advisors?
I would say just like accessible empowerment, in student government especially, like, I think it's so valuable because one, we can affect the students here, but also these are building blocks for skills that we're gonna have in our careers and when we graduate and stuff like that, and there's a lot of things I know how to do now that will affect me in my career later. Thanks to Holly and Marissa and Michael and Sean, all busy people that work here, so just like, of course, not doing the skills for us, but showing us how to do it and just being accessible. So thank you guys for all you do.
Thank you.
I mean, just tying on to what some of the district mentioned, I think one really good expectation to go on for just the upcoming year that I've noticed some particular projects are very similar, and I think would be great is that providing more of a seamless integration and interactiveness for the upcoming years between staff and the internal operations of SSU student members, because I noticed they were working very hard to start having more into collaboration with one another, but every annual year you could, new board members of BCUs, new senators upcoming years, people that either are continuing members of AS or maybe just entirely new members of associations in general, who might not be as informed of who to go to, who to relate to communicate with, and who to know and everything. And as we continue to practice this year, staff members kind of, being advisors, and integrating with people, I think having that continuous of staff members and see every year long term to help facilitate a meeting with these new members or maybe BCU, they know your people to help us show that they're there, so they don't have to feel as discarded and stuff. I think is a good point. Yeah.
And Senator Willa has been a phenomenal support to staff. How many staff have you met with this summer? She's met with at least half of the quarters of our staff, just because she's making it imperative that we build a healthier relationship. between all of you and us, so big rocks, right there, definitely is what we do. Oh, I'm just gonna go over this really quickly. So, there's an actual profession. Not all of us go the professional route to get degrees in student affairs or advising, some of us do. I chose that route in educational leadership and student affairs and student development. But the beauty of our advisors is that we all have unique backgrounds and we all bring different flavors and lenses and experiences to how we advise. And so that's why I don't want a cookie cutter advisor, I want folks who know and are really good at what they do, and these folks are that. But know that there are there are baseline competencies that we expect when it comes to our profession. So know that there are some things around like the NASA and ACPA core competencies that we expect of our advisors when it comes to it. So if you want to learn more about that. And then just so you understand, when it comes to how we advise and what we advise, most folks might think of their advisor in the transactional world, right? You come to us because you need to know how to fill out a requisition, or you need a signature, or you need that Amazon order for Gateway, or you need help reserving a room, right? Those are transactions, and that's a lot of what we do. But what most of us got into this profession for, and what we love, is the second part. It's the transformational advising. This is where our heart and our soul comes into the work that we do. For me, working on student development and helping you become better humans, better leaders, better community folks, better public servants is what matters to us. So having trainings like we did this morning, how to address group dynamics, communication, conflict. We are here to help you with that as well, right? So you don't have to go it alone when there's intergroup tension, because guess what? It's gonna happen. We're human. It happens with us. So we are also resources for that. If you're having communication and conflict within an organization, we don't expect you to do that by yourself. You have resources on campus to help navigate those group dynamics.
Our last slide. That's our last slide.
Cool. So that was what we wanted to do. Now we're gonna to the rest of our panel and to your questions for the panel. But are there any words of wisdom you all want to start with, or any specifics that you want folks to know about advising, or what matters to you most? I think it's mostly don't be afraid to ask those questions. And that's a big thing for me. That's honestly how I got so far in my career. Is just asking those questions whether you think I'm the right person to come to or not. Because chances are I may have that answer, or I mean we should be this too, but just always ask questions.
There are no dumb questions. No. All right, do you all have questions? What questions do you want to hear from the advisors? Mind you, we've got a great spectrum of advising here, from Cardinal to events to like program board and sustainability and environmental stuff and literacy, all that fun stuff. What do you want to know?
Marissa and I can also answer questions too, if you have anything specific from student government.
Hi, yeah, so, I've also, Senator Will Beulah has been doing amazing, and I've only interacted with maybe like 4 staff, as people within the liaison committee. But from what I see, there's a problem where some of the staff really don't know what's happening in AS, which is also an internal association wide thing, where we don't know what's happening with other entities. But sometimes when I ask them questions, they're like, I don't know, ask Sean Foley. And if all of those are circumvented to Sean Foley, then it creates a problem where obviously they're all innovative things. Like for some time, for example, didn't even know that like honorary was making like transition and stuff, which I feel like as a student, we shouldn't be the ones who have to tell them.
Yeah.
So I was learning how not just within staff, but as a general associate students, we can work on communication and understanding what each other is doing. Thank you.
Great question. And I'm gonna start with, like, remember, we're going through, we're like in our teenagers right now, we're going through like our teenagers. Remember, we're going through some changes. We have a lot of vacancies. And we just had a really great staff retreat. I believe before Sean was our interim, the staff hadn't had a retreat since 7 to 10 years ago. 2018, 2019. So we did this staff retreat for the first time, 2 days staff retreat, and I would say that it was pretty good. And so we are also working internally on our culture and our communication internally. So let me start with that. And with filling vacancies, because I'm also gonna let you know that Lily, who's our HR person, I believe we filled at least 7 to 8 positions within the last 4 months. A lot. She's been kidding us. So if you see Lily and her folks, please tell her great job, because she's doing everything she can to help us too, because we get all your emails and we can get to all of them, and then we feel bad. So I'm gonna open that up to you or to you if you all want it. The internal communication and honorary. That's a legit question.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, or just add really that I think that's fair feedback on working on internal communication. And I think Marissa and I in particular are working on ways to kind of keep more of the staff informed about what's happening at, I guess, the governmental affairs level, really, like what's happening with our internal processes and Senate and honorary and all of that. So that's definitely something that we're working on. I would also say having additional staff for the government proposed team will help. So that's a part of our internal process. I know, Amen, you and I've talked about that a little bit about it, kind of expanding the team for that. But I just to boil it down, I would agree that I think more internal communication, I think would be helpful. And also not every staff kind of works in those areas. So they kind of really wait for us to tell them like, okay, this is the new process so that they can understand it and implement it. So I think that's also just maybe like just a difference of working style, I guess, is that there are just our other staff that don't want to be involved like in the kitchen while the cooking is happening in the situation. So I think that does impact that also, is that they probably tell them what the final is.
If you saw the org chart again, I think it's a little backwards here, you were trying to fix it. But for the student government execs in the Senate alone, it's really just 2 people. It's Holly and Sean is a lot. That's the student government process. We have proposed to Sean a more robust team to that advising so that we can divvy up more of the things. So Senate just went on a retreat, right? Getting them there meant that Holly has to book all their hotel, all their transportation, and their food stuff before they left. We were also working on this, planning this all summer with Leanne and her team. Plus, we also supervise staff, and we have to take vacation at some point, right? We're trying to, meet with the liaison committee and do on program. It's a lot. Most of the team does not interact with all of that. That's mainly us with. So we're trying to shift that expectation, but also get enough staff so that we're not doing all the transactions in addition to the transformational advising and the portions and training. So no, it's still going to be hard. It's still going to be messy, but that's where we need to be patient with each other. That's why we're fixing the honor, right? Anyone want to ask something? Okay. Other questions?
So it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm also trying to kind of learn how our association operates better as I'm stepping in my role. It's my understanding that students, including senators, including execs, are not able to kind of officially input changes to the legal code when they are passed, for example. And so I was wondering, and then I'm assuming I've heard that the staff are responsible for that. So I was wondering if someone could speak to maybe Holly, like kind of why it's been difficult to have access to an updated legal code. And I didn't even know that there was an issue with this until I was looking for same policy 4142. Because at the end of last spring quarter, we were trying to send policy 43. And same policy 4142 weren't in there, so I couldn't find it, if we're doing a printed version, you see. And even for my community for Elbridge committee, the positions had been changed in the bill last year. So I hired the people for positions that had been changed, don't exist, or didn't exist within the legal code version that I had. So I was just looking for somebody to speak to that and how we can address that, because naturally that creates confusion when, we don't have a standard updated version of the book of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you mind if I share some of the things okay, I want to ask for your permission before I talk about that. So a little bit of background as to how that became managed by staff in the first place, I think will be helpful. So prior to me joining the association, we had a staff person, Denise, that used to manage the file, and then the position that I was hired to in 2018 was called the legislative liaison. So that position updated the legal code, managed the folders of all the legislation, and advised all the standing committees. So at the time, I was the legislative liaison, we had an assistant director for governmental affairs, so the three of us, meaning that position, myself and Maricela, were at Senate meetings, we would keep track of everything. Well, my predecessor, left, he actually runs his own academic consulting company, he's doing amazing work, we were sad to see him leave. I then applied for and was accepted into this position. And kind of how it used to work previous to that is if you are a manager, right, we're talking about exempt versus non-exempt. You kind of absorb the work that is underneath you. So what has really happened over the last 5.5, 6 years or so is instead of it being an assistant director, legislative liaison, maybe somebody that does other administrative work, it's just become a Holly bubble, if you may call it. So kind of anything really related to governmental affairs is kind of merged into this one massive position. So that's how, well, and it became staff responsibility from just either policy or maybe students wanted it.
Cultural thing, I was going to understand, when
Yeah.
there's a culture within this town. Folks that it said, and there were certain things that were expected us down to do that were not really pushed to students.
Yeah.
Holly and I have a different philosophy on that than our predecessors, which is why we're allowing that change now, because it wasn't something we were allowed to do in the past.
Yes.
It was
So,
allowed children.
we, after students asked for it for many years, I physically myself hand copied all of the Word document of the legal code into the Google Doc. And the intention was that I would have the bandwidth to be able to edit it every week. As you've commented, that has not been possible. So the first attempt I then reached out to me to problem solve a solution to that, and we're going to have some students in his office help with updating that regularly until we can fill that position. But essentially, where it was really important to kind of house one main document, which mind you, previous to this, the only way you could access a live version was if you asked me for a copy of it. We didn't have this live version then, but students have been asking for it for years. And so we implemented it this past year. So we hope to hire a position to be able to manage that more, so that it can be a more effective update and they can manage the communication and all of that. But I think at this point, we've agreed that being done is better than not at all. But part of what was important for me to hold on to that process was so that there was no political involvement in the updating it at all. So that it could be, exactly the way that it was written as the Senate passed it, really. So whenever students come to me and they're like, hey, the legal code says this, why was this written so bad? What did you do? I'm like, not me. Like, the Senate is a legislative body. If you put in a typo, if it's written badly, it was like very organized in that way. So part of the reasoning for that was so that if there's ever any legal challenges, we have one copy, everything is accurate, there's no I just didn't like this, so I deleted it because that's really bad. So we're trying to find a balance between kind of maintaining the integrity of the operation and also not just never having it done or having it done once per year, because I personally happen to be unavailable to do it. I personally don't think that the Ask Holly method or Ask Sean method has worked, and I think you would agree with that. So we're trying to find a balance, but I think long-term solution wise, I think having some additional stuff. Makes sense that would
And
probably.
this is
Of course. Yeah, so once, Sean and Lily and Marissa kind of agree to the team makeup, what will happen is that we'll draft job descriptions that then get approved by HR. So look at a bonus lesson on classification. So once the job descriptions are written and they're approved by HR, they're then approved by the division. And then once we have the go-ahead to hire, which may take a little while because the university is in the middle of a budget cut. Then we will have search committees and we will have forums. So if anyone wants to participate in a search committee or attend a forum, you will have communication for all of that. And we'd love to hear your feedback about those candidates and or the jobs.
Got it, thank you, all that for providing insight into that. Okay. Just in the interim then, how do we recognize a legal code of violation we have that is outdated, that maybe also has to change the legal code, what? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna catch up between myself and the students that have offered for the catch up. We're-
You can also. Consent or vacation involved consent. Right? So changes keep going, so still in progress, and we're gonna help Evan and I'll be sure. So.
All right, just for time's sake, we have about 7 to 10 more minutes, so if there's anyone with any questions, we'll take a few more.
Hi, I wanted to ask, how did my group go about seeking a new advisor? Because our previous advisor, Marcellus, is not here anymore. And we have like over like half of our board is brand new, and I want to make sure I'm guiding them in the right direction. I'm not like violating code or anything. There's a lot that I know about this, but not enough. So I want to know if there's a way that we can learn more about you guys or how we can push out so our group can have an advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can share mine and Marissa and Sean's contact information if that would be helpful. One of the things that I've recommended to some students in the past, I know it's not ideal and you really would rather have an advisor at your meeting. But at the minimum, we have these different staffing areas. So if you're like, I want to plan an event. Sorry, Kate, to be on the spot, but staff like Kate can help with like making the room reservation if there's a speaker and a contract. So I would really recommend either, so we can point you in the right direction. But until we're able to have additional staff to kind of give individualized attention. So if you're like, I don't know how to take minutes, like I would be the person to ask about that, or like, how do I submit them? Or if you're like, who is the IVP again? I can point you to Henry, which I'm sure everybody knows the IVP, but you know, for example. Same with like tech, right? If you're like, I need an AS email, I can't get on Slack. So I would recommend in the interim that you connect with Marissa, Sean, or I to be pointed in the right direction of a staff person in that area that can help you. And if we don't know the answer, we know who can.
Yeah, we're literally we have a discussion.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to help with any guidance on events across campus. Specifically those in the general assignment classrooms, that's the department that I came from, so I'm incredibly well versed in the knowledge of how to reserve the general assignment classrooms, how to get the tech support needed in those spaces, so anything from like group X classrooms to HSSP to Campbell Hall and IB theater. Feel free to shoot me on the side of my office.
I'll just add to that, as Marissa said, a lot of this come from a wide range of backgrounds, so depending on what work your group is doing, there may be a specialty area that people have that background in. So even though we're assigned like for specific groups that we advise, there's a lot of knowledge, like Kate's knowledge, that could be useful to you and in the interim. But even still, like, we're always helping out on your groups that are even officially our groups, you know, so don't hesitate to ask, you know, that's a lot, don't agree with when they're like, here, it's your pick out of all these people, but at least start somewhere and we can connect that way.
Or at least just start with Polly and I and or Sean, and then we will make sure somebody gets to push, but literally, discuss the information. We're getting, but you can start with us.
So would it be best to contact you then about room reservations for like meetings and any other kind of reservations regarding like the school, because we actually have to start scheduling it and booking rooms, but it's kind of become, like I said, this weird thing where I have to do something, and like tech support we never get because, Dallas Anderson doesn't have it. So would you?
Yeah, so for things like that, I know a lot about those general assignment classrooms, so feel free to stop by my office, shoot me an email. I'm happy to walk anyone through that process. And if I can't answer that question, I have an incredibly good relationship with the people that do the scheduling over at Seal. So I can always get you in contact with them to get that training if I can't provide it myself.
Thank you.
And then there was another camp over here. What? Oh,
And, I also just want to add, especially for billing issues, because that's something that's changed from last year, that, the Sebastian, their financial team is, has a whole system for billing specifically, so they email you and they're like, how are you paying for this? Or like, it hasn't been paid, then like, that's Sebastian. Yeah, so I think that's where all of that kind of right in there, guys.
Also, a reminder that we have, Slack, so if you have an email or email, we can help get you connected to one, so don't feel weird about asking any questions on Slack, either about reservations or paying or anything like that, so we will fit in and help. And also, we have a couple different offices, so the ASF office upstairs is how students have some of our finance teamers up there. So if you're like, I just need to physically see a human and ask this question, there are some staff up there. The student staff are brand new, like coming in, so, they're still being trained, but they're still being staff. They're the, already, so, these are positions.
in two ways that I'm hoping to augment our advising structure, is one is to hire student staff who will be in AS Main. So if you have questions about basic transactional stuff, hopefully they can help with those questions. So that's one thing that would give us a little time to hire the student train them. The other thing that Leanne and I, in some past student years, like Eric Carlson, have been working on is a asynchronous training on Canvas. And when I worked at Berkeley, we had to train, we had 1,200 student groups that I was responsible for advising, and we had to train all of them, and each RSO, we call them RSO services, had to have 4 signatories, that's roughly 6,000 people. We did all that online to Canvas. So it's in the process, it's almost done, and hopefully a lot of the questions that you have or in the transactional will be in there. And then hopefully will also be attached to a registration form where you will fill out all of your information so we can capture everything we need for Ontario at the beginning of the year. And then we meet with everybody who's part of AS at the beginning of the year, so all the way to your eligibility checks at the beginning, and all at the end, just as if you're getting paid. So we have lots of ideas and structures. So just be patient with us, is what I would say, because we're in flux right now, but we have plans. And we have great leadership in Sean. And Sean is really open to our ideas, our suggestions. And to say it, I really value that. And Sean's really there for all of you. So know that. Right now, you have all of us in some way, shape, or form. If you don't know, you can come up to AS main or AS admin on the second floor, the legal staff downstairs. And then also we will find a place to get you information that doesn't require all of them to go to parents. Right? And the last part,
I do want to say also that, if you're a client, and not if you can start with us, if you have to come all over here. You can go to us and ask questions, I'll answer the questions that I can. There is legal resource upstairs, IBCRC is there as well, IBTU. I myself am part of center, so you can always, I can always answer the questions best I can, and guide me to someone happy.
and it's just fun to hang out with them. How many of you love hanging out at the Cardinals? So it's just a cool place to go hang out. So we'll make sure you have access to resources to look in. Just be patient with us, and if you have ideas, we'll take it. If you have ideas for staff, we will take it. So let us know.
And I know that the library is usually closed, just know that the center will be open on Fridays to midnight, if you want to study, and if you do want to reserve the spot. Just go into the website and you can reserve the lobby or the conference room at the person. sister. One for your.
All right, well, thank you for the question for feedback. This is not the end of this conversation, keep bringing it to us, and you're going into a break.
Yeah, we're going to be, look the
We're
program.
getting a little early, so you have a little bit of a longer break, and I believe we wanted to try and do a set an executive outside. And then if you have parts of your BC here, and you want to take a group picture, and you want to take an additional, don't forget to do that. I don't know if anybody gets coffee.
Our next session, meeting is 2:25, it's gonna be yours again, so take the opportunity to break. It will be around where I will next time. Sure. If anybody has any more advice, questions, but it's great.
People.
Thank you all.